Elisa Blix enjoys her short break, sunbathing on a beach by the warm sea. Her husband Fred sends her a photo of himself with their daughter Lucia and son Georgie, writing how much they miss her. Elisa is a flight attendant on private jets, constantly traveling. Her beautiful smile is her trademark. After another flight, she rushes to school to pick up her daughter. The teacher, Miss Thompson, notes that this is the third time this week Elisa has been late. Elisa promises it won't happen again. She then meets Rebecca Walsh, the mother of Josephine. She's new here. 9-year-old Lucia has become friends with Josephine and begs her mother to let her visit their home. Elisa is unsure it's a good idea since they usually plan such things in advance, but Rebecca assures her she doesn't mind at all. Eventually, under the pleading gazes of the girls, Elisa gives in and writes down Rebecca's number, planning to pick Lucia up in 2 hours. Elisa and Fred, a criminal lawyer, work a lot, balancing their careers and parental duties. At some point Elisa receives a call from her daughter, asking to stay overnight at Josephine's. Elisa hesitates. Josephine has never stayed the night anywhere before, but Rebecca convinces her everything is fine and the girls are having a great time together. After some hesitation, Elisa agrees to bring Lucia's things and arrives at the address, a huge luxurious house. Rebecca warmly invites Elisa inside. Elisa exclaims that the place is perfect for photoshoots. Rebecca, a former makeup artist, jokes that she'd rather not. She knows what usually happens at such photoshoots. Currently Rebecca doesn't work, devoting all her time to raising her daughter. Her husband Jack is rarely in town due to business trips. He works in a bank, handling clients, loans and deals. The girls dressed as fairies are playing tag. Elisa wants to take a photo, but Rebecca asks her not to. She doesn't like her daughter being photographed without permission. Making sure Lucia seems to like it here, Elisa gives Rebecca the girls' things and her favorite toy, then leaves with peace of mind. The next morning before her flight, Elisa calls Fred and asks if he picked up Lucia. Fred replies that he recently spoke to Rebecca. She took Lucia and Josephine to the pool and promised they'd be home by noon. Elisa resumes her routine of flights, but a sense of unease doesn't leave her, and soon she calls Fred again. He says Lucia still isn't back, but he left Rebecca a voicemail. They probably just got delayed. When Fred realizes it's been 3.5 hours since Rebecca was supposed to bring Lucia back, he starts to worry too. Elisa immediately calls Rebecca but the number is unreachable. When Elisa returns from her flight, Fred is already waiting for her, and together they head to Rebecca's house. But when they arrive, a cleaner opens the door, claiming no one lives there. It's a vacation rental property. At that moment the full horror of the situation hits the couple, and they call the police. It's clear that Lucia has been abducted, but for what purpose? At the police station the couple tells them everything they know. Unable to hold herself together, Elisa steps outside. Manchester police quickly launches an investigation. Journalist Selma Desai attends the press conference organized by the police. Detective Inspector Shona Sinclair announces that the presumed abductor of Lucia Blix is Rebecca Walsh, the mother of her school friend Josephine. However, this might not be her real name, and the woman may have fake documents. All the police have is a composite sketch of Rebecca, based on Elisa's description. Then the detective inspector hands the microphone to the missing girl's parents. Elisa addresses Rebecca, speaking about the pain she has caused their family and urging anyone with information to contact the police immediately. After that, journalists bombard the couple with questions, asking Elisa if she regrets leaving her daughter with a stranger. But the Blixes refuse to answer the press. Detective Sinclair advises the couple to go home and rest, instructing her young colleague Detective Daniel Coolidge to go with them in case Rebecca tries to make contact. Fred thinks it's best for their son to stay with his grandmother for now. The atmosphere at home is too tense. Elisa feels like she's trapped in a nightmare. Fred promises they'll find Lucia, no matter what it takes. When Fred spots Selma Desai, a journalist outside their home, he doesn't like it. Detective Coolidge tells Selma that the Blix family is not giving any press comments and demands that she leave immediately. But Selma desperately needs this story. The police are doing everything they can, but the credit card used to rent the cottage leads nowhere. After cleaning, the house was nearly spotless, but one stuffed toy was found, possibly belonging to Lucia. Selma approaches Mrs. Thompson, the teacher from the school where Lucia and Josephine studied. Mrs. Thompson answers reluctantly, saying that Rebecca seemed like a perfectly ordinary mother, and Josephine was just a quiet girl. She had recently transferred to the school, allegedly due to bullying. Mrs. Thompson refuses to answer any further questions and walks away. Detective Inspector Shona Sinclair and Detective Sergeant Lizzie Walker visit the Blix house and show the toy found in the cottage. The couple confirms that it belongs to Lucia. Detective Sinclair presents the main theory: someone hired Rebecca to carry out the kidnapping, and Josephine might not be her daughter at all. The couple is puzzled. Who would want to do this? Detective Sinclair urges them to think carefully. Is there anyone who might hold a grudge against them? Fred says he defended a client who had been forced to launder money for a criminal organization. In the end, he testified against them. The detectives intend to investigate this theory and ask the couple to provide passwords to all their phones and computers. Fred clearly has more to say, but he wants to speak to Elisa privately first, which leaves her confused. He confesses to Elisa that he had something with another woman. The couple is taken to the police station. Fred's would-be lover is named Sarah Banks, and the police have already accessed their call and message logs. Sarah first saw Fred with his family at a mini-golf course a year ago. She was there too with her husband and child. Fred claims he never messaged Sarah first. Nevertheless, he did respond to her. The texts soon turned into calls, and their conversations grew increasingly intimate. Elisa finds it unbearable to hear. When Sarah suggested meeting up several times, Fred ignored all her messages. As he continued to remain silent, Sarah's tone became more aggressive, eventually escalating to threats. She said she would make him regret it. That was the last contact he had with her, about a year ago. The police have only one image of Rebecca, from a school security camera. But Fred cannot say for sure whether the woman is Sarah Banks. If it is indeed Sarah, then the kidnapping at least has a motive. Regardless, Rebecca's whereabouts remain unknown. Selma's last article about the Blix family was never published, as the editorial team deemed it delusional. Selma believes the real protagonist of this story is the mother of the missing girl, but editor-in-chief Caleb Negacy objects, saying not 20 hours after the abduction. Selma feels that Rebecca Walsh, whoever she really is targeting Elisa Blix specifically. But so far these are just Selma's unproven theories. Elisa is broken but tries to hold herself together in front of her son. Fred's mother, Maria Blix, helps however she can. No matter how hard the parents try to shield Georgie from the truth, he has seen the news and knows his sister is in danger. Elisa and Fred are upset that Maria allowed him to watch the news. Detective Coolidge's constant presence in the house adds more tension. Elisa cries all the time. Things are made worse by Georgie constantly asking about his sister. Fred doesn't know what to say to express how sorry he is. There was no physical affair, just texting, but that does little to ease Elisa's pain. Fred doesn't understand why he always ends up being the bad parent. In Elisa's place, he says, he would never have left Lucia with a woman he just met. Selma scours Elisa's social media, hoping to find any lead, while Lucia is being transported in the trunk of a car. At that moment Rebecca replays Elisa's video interview over and over, the one where she begs the abductor not to harm Lucia. The day before, while the girls were happily playing hide and seek in the cottage, Josephine told Lucia that her dad had passed away, but she wasn't allowed to talk about it. Then Rebecca offered the girls hot chocolate. While Josephine went to fetch pajamas and a book, Rebecca asked Lucia about her father. The girl replied that her dad was a lawyer and that her mom often gets worried. Sometimes they have to lock all the doors. After the hot chocolate, Lucia feels a sudden wave of drowsiness, and Rebecca leads her to the sofa. Once assured that Lucia is asleep, Rebecca sends a message to someone. A few minutes later a man enters the house and carries Lucia to a car. 5 days pass. An envelope is slipped under the Blix family's door, but it's Georgie who finds it first while Elisa is still unable to get out of bed. Seeing Maria outside the window, Elisa decides to go for a drive, anything to avoid her mother-in-law. Elisa keeps replaying her first meeting with Rebecca in her mind and remembers that she managed to take one photo of the girls. She immediately posts it online, asking anyone who recognizes the second girl to come forward. Selma is one of the first to see the post and wants to interview Elisa, even though the police have forbidden it. Selma finds it odd that Elisa's social media is full of posts from the past 7 or 8 years but absolutely nothing before that. Nothing is known about her past. What if she changed her identity? The police still have no leads, indicating that Lucia's kidnappers planned everything meticulously. D.I. Sinclair also advises Elisa not to post anything else on social media because after the photo of Lucia and Josephine was published, the police were overwhelmed with false tips. Elisa starts developing paranoia. She constantly fears Georgie might be kidnapped too. Soon, she finds the letter in her son's room saying that Lucia is being held and won't be returned alive if the parents go to the police. The kidnappers demand a ransom, £100,000, and give them 2 days. Elisa immediately shows the letter to Fred. Meanwhile in prison, inmate Marcus Turner reads about Lucia Blix's abduction in a newspaper article. Naturally the Blixes hand the letter over to the police. The person who left it was caught on surveillance footage, but their identity cannot be confirmed. The Blixes are willing to pay any amount to get their daughter back, but D.I. Sinclair urges caution. It's entirely possible the letter was written by scammers, not the actual kidnappers. For now, they must wait until these people reach out again. Selma learns about the ransom letter from police sources. She finds it suspicious that the kidnappers waited so long to make demands, and hand-delivered the letter. Alisa is in constant, anxious anticipation of another letter. Despite everything, Fred continues working with his client. Alisa begs him to stay home, but he says he can't. His client is being questioned by police today. Alisa feels like her husband knows more than he's telling. Leaving Georgie with Maria, she prepares to take action, when Selma approaches her car and says she knows about the letter. Selma understands the police will discourage the Blixes from paying the ransom and suggests hiring a private negotiator, claiming they're often more effective than the police. Not wanting to continue the conversation, Alisa drives off and goes to the bank to request a loan of £100,000. She feels that Fred is not willing to pay. However, the bank cannot provide her with the loan without her husband's presence. Moreover, the Blixes already have a mortgage of £200,000 on the house. Alisa is shocked. This is the first she's heard of it. Even worse, her husband forged her signature. Alisa tries to call Fred, but he doesn't answer. Detective Coolidge is the one leaking information to Selma. For a price, of course. He also gives her a photo of the person who left the envelope. Alisa calls Fred's office, but the secretary says he's unavailable at the moment. Stephen Bailey, Fred's client, is testifying against the criminal organization. One of its members is already behind bars. Stephen's family constantly receives threats, but there's no turning back now. If he changes his testimony, the case could fall apart. Fred leaves the office cautiously, looking around as he goes. Selma is determined to identify the person who delivered the letter, even though she hasn't received approval from her editor to bribe police officers. At this point, she doesn't care. Alisa calls D.I. Sinclair and reports that Fred left work hours ago and hasn't been seen since. D.I. Sinclair promises to look into it. Meanwhile, Selma finds a string of angry comments under Alisa's posts from someone named Rachel Lamont. She blames the parents for the disappearance of their daughter. Selma notices that in Rachel Lamont's photos, she's wearing the same cap as the person who delivered the letter. Selma believes Rachel delivered the ransom note, while the police are looking for a man. Before Caleb alerts the police, Selma decides to tell Alisa and goes to her. Selma believes Rachel, who recently moved from London, is spreading false rumors. Alisa feels like she's losing her mind from the uncertainty. Selma says she genuinely wants to help, because Lucia was clearly targeted. That means either Alisa or Fred knows the kidnapper. When Selma starts questioning Alisa about who she was before becoming Mrs. Blix, Alisa slams the door in the journalist's face. The police swiftly arrest Rachel. Meanwhile, Fred follows Stephen's car and then attacks him, convinced that Stephen informed the criminal organization about Lucia. But Stephen denies any involvement. Fred is desperate. Detective Sergeant Lizzie Walker stays up late reviewing surveillance footage, and soon sends D.I. Sinclair a video from a gas station in France showing Lucia trying to escape from her abductor, but the man grabs her and drags her back into the car. This happened 5 days ago. Manchester police plan to contact Interpol. D.I. Sinclair has located Fred's car, but not Fred himself. At that moment he's simply wandering the streets. In prison, Marcus writes another letter addressed to Elisa Blix. Night falls, but Fred still hasn't reappeared. Lucia is brought to a house in the countryside. Rebecca and Josephine are already there, waiting. Lucia asks where she is and where her mother is. Rebecca tells her she's sorry, but there was no other way. She promises Lucia that everything will be fine from now on and welcomes her home. 9 months before the abduction, Rebecca, whose real name is Nina, ran into her old acquaintance Delphine in France. When Delphine hears that Nina's husband Nicholas died in an accident 4 years ago, she's shocked. Delphine asks how Nina manages alone with 2 9-year-old daughters. Nina replies that the girls attend boarding school. 7 months before the abduction, Nina is cleaning up the country house that belonged to her late husband. 4 months before the abduction, Nina meets with the owner of a local cafe, Lorcles, and says she has a job for Milan Markovic. Nina promises to pay well, but Lore says no amount would be enough. Nina explains that her daughter was taken from her, and now Lulu Rose is growing up far from her mother. 3 weeks before the abduction, Nina, having changed her appearance, rents the house in Manchester and begins executing her elaborate plan. In the present, Nina tries to help Lucia adjust to her new life, but the girl won't speak and refuses to eat. Nina tells Lucia that she is her real mother, and Alisa and Fred were only caring for her temporarily. But Lucia, whom Nina now calls Lulu Rose, misses her family terribly. There's no internet or mobile connection here. Nina shows Lucia her favorite childhood toy, a plush bunny. Nina hopes it will stir some memories. The next morning, Fred walks into the police station and confesses to the assault. His fingerprints are taken, and he is arrested. He's only told that the ransom letter was written by a con artist who has already been caught. When Elisa finds out her husband has been arrested, she's furious. In despair, she screams. The editor praises Selma for her latest article, which caused a major stir. The publication didn't reveal its source. Selma digs deeper and finds records of Elisa's birth certificate. Her maiden name is Stanton. Selma quickly calls Caleb to tell him that Elisa was born into a religious commune in Aden. Selma is heading there now and soon finds Elisa's mother, Deborah Stanton. Deborah admits she's only seen her granddaughter a couple of times. She doesn't get along with her daughter, who rejected the commune's way of life. Fred is released pending investigation. The good news is that police have identified the kidnapper. His name is Milan Markovic, a Croatian man living in France. Neither Fred nor Elisa has ever seen this man or his partner, Lorcles. Elisa plans to post their photos on her social media. Like the detectives, Elisa wants to know what Fred spent the £200,000 loan on. Fred says the money went to school fees, home renovations, Elisa's constant travels, and other expenses. She had no idea how much everything really cost. All members of the commune in Aden wear red. Selma visits a souvenir shop and learns from the clerk that Elisa always wanted to leave. She never belonged there because she put her own needs above the commune's. Deborah always punished her daughter harshly for disobedience. The last time Elisa visited was when her father passed away. Nina treats the girls to delicious pastries, but Lucia remains silent. Josephine shows her sister childhood photos. The girls look very much alike. In the photos, Lucia sees her biological father Nicholas for the first time. For Nina, the most important thing now is not to get caught. She constantly changes SIM cards and closely monitors the news through various accounts. When Nina sees that the police have released the video of Lucia trying to escape from her abductor and a photo of Milan Markovic, she immediately calls him. But he assures her that he took all the necessary precautions and asks her not to contact him again. Nina cannot afford to lose her daughter a second time. Milan Markovic has wisely disposed of the car he used to transport Lucia across the border. Selma also sees the video on Elisa's page, and later tells Caleb about the commune where people do everything together, even raising children. Maybe that explains why Elisa so easily let Lucia go with a stranger. Selma wants to write an article about it. Caleb approves. Selma says she just needs an hour. Soon Elisa sees the article about her childhood online. Fred suggests filing a complaint against the publication. It sparked a wave of online harassment, with many people blaming Elisa. Fred is troubled that his wife never told him about her childhood, but she insists there's nothing to tell. Marcus Turner sends another letter to Elisa. The question remains, how is he connected to her? Nina's neighbor Anton approaches her to introduce himself and gives her a bottle of wine. She's nervous about the unexpected visit but tries to stay composed. Later, she tells the girls that strangers should not know too much about their family. Nina lives in constant paranoia, afraid that Lucia will be taken from her again. Meanwhile, the girl suffers from nightmares. Nina remembers that the nightmares began after her father died. She promises Lucia that she will always be there for her. Selma did not expect the wave of hate directed at Elisa. The Blixes have already filed a complaint. Caleb orders Selma not to write about Elisa in any future articles. D.I. Sinclair informs the Blixes that the French police have contacted them. They search the apartment where Milan Markovic allegedly brought Lucia. It's still unclear what exactly happened there. Elisa is at her breaking point. Nina takes the girls to the beach and suddenly sees a man holding a newspaper with Lucia's photo on it. Delphine arrives at the beach with her daughter. Nina fears that Delphine will recognize Lucia, whose photos are everywhere. But this time nothing happens. It seems Lucia has begun to adapt to her new life. Nina has a secret compartment in her closet where she keeps a laptop containing family photos. She edits one of the photos, adding a birthmark to one of the girl's shoulders, identical to the one Lucia has. 11 months before the abduction, the Blix family lived an ordinary life, unaware of the trials that lay ahead. 7 weeks have passed since the abduction. Elisa gives a radio interview. She's tired of defending herself to the press, which continues to spread hate against her. At one point Elisa can't take it anymore and ends the interview, as even now the questions are designed to paint her as a bad mother. Everyone in the Aden commune is outraged that Selma's article portrayed them as madmen and made Elisa's already difficult situation worse. But Selma continues digging because she finds it odd that Elisa visited Aden not on the day of the funeral, but on the day of her father Daniel Stanton's death. He fell down the stairs. However, the locals now refuse to speak with Selma. All that's known is that Elisa left immediately after her father died, without even waiting for the ambulance. Selma decides to speak with the local police officer, who was the first to arrive at the Stanton house in 2019 after Daniel's death. The officer says it was ruled an accident. He also mentions that there was a car accident nearby that same day. Selma drives to the location. According to online articles, there were 2 victims. The French police find the remains of the car Milan Markovic used to drive Lucia away. When Nina finds out, she calls him and says she needs a new passport. Fred, like the rest of the family, is waiting for the report on the car. Many accuse Elisa of using her son to gain attention on social media. Soon a social worker named Sandra visits the Blix family to check on Georgie. It turns out that social services received numerous calls from concerned citizens worried about Georgie's safety. Elisa is outraged and cannot understand what right these people think they have. Caleb demands that Selma stop going to Aiden and stop meddling in things that don't concern her. Elisa's first complaint may not ruin Selma's career, but a second one certainly will. Moreover, Selma's actions could jeopardize the reputation of the publication. Nina arrives at the address she received from Milan Markovic and pays a man named Joao for a fake biometric passport. The document will be ready only the next day. Nina knows that she and the girls need to run as soon as possible. When the press finds out that a social worker visited the Blix household, their situation gets even worse. Meanwhile, Lucia spies on Nina placing a large amount of cash into an envelope. Selma searches online for information about a fatal car accident in Yorkshire and learns that a man named Marcus Turner, former owner of a small hotel chain, was found guilty in the case. Through social media, Selma finds out that Elisa once stayed at his hotel. When Elisa receives a message from Selma asking whether she knows Marcus Turner, her panic escalates. She goes through her other mail, finds a letter from Marcus and opens it. Marcus writes that he wants to meet and tell her something important. Still not receiving any response from Elisa, Selma shows up at her home. Elisa doesn't understand what else the journalist wants. She's already taken everything possible from her. There's nothing left to take. Selma's articles have completely destroyed the Blix family's life. But as it turns out, Selma hasn't stopped. She has already connected the dates and discovered that when Elisa was pregnant with Georgie and leaving Aiden, the accident happened, and Marcus Turner was found responsible. Selma suspects that Elisa was also in the car with Marcus and that they might have had an affair. Shocked, Elisa is momentarily speechless, insisting there was no affair. Selma intends to meet Marcus in prison and speak to him directly. That night, someone breaks into Nina's house. She hides the girls in a closet and goes downstairs, only to find Milan Markovic, wanted by the police in several countries. He needs a lot of money to disappear, and that's why he's come, knowing Nina has a stash. But Nina has no intention of giving him the money, which leads to a violent fight. To save herself, she grabs a sharp object and ends Milan Markovic's life. Elisa decides to get ahead of Selma and meet Marcus Turner in prison. When Selma calls the prison to arrange a feature, she is denied. Marcus Turner is under a no-visitation order for journalists. Continuing her online research, Selma finds that Marcus was sentenced to 11 years for a fatal car crash that killed Nicholas Thibault and his daughter Rose. Marcus pleaded guilty. Selma submits a request for photos from Marcus Turner's sentencing. When she opens them, she sees Nina Thibault, Nicholas's wife. She looks very much like the composite sketch of Rebecca Walsh, Lucia's kidnapper. After all these years, Elisa finally meets Marcus. The first thing she says is, "I'm sorry." She should have visited him and answered his letters. She just didn't know how. Hearing this, Marcus breaks down in tears. He never believed Elisa would actually come. He has never told anyone what really happened. Everything he did was for Elisa and their son. Elisa is deeply grateful to Marcus for everything he did for her. It's the first time he hears that his son's name is Georgie. Elisa knows there's nothing she can do that would be enough to repay Marcus. He admits that some time ago, Nicholas's wife Nina visited him. She wanted to know all the details of the incident. Marcus told Nina that he had been driving from Aiden alone, without mentioning Elisa. Hearing this, she feels an overwhelming sense of relief. Later, Elisa receives Nina's photo from Selma with a question: "Is this the woman who kidnapped Lucia?" Elisa instantly recognizes Rebecca and asks Fred if it's Sarah Banks. And Fred does indeed recognize Sarah Banks. For now, Elisa cannot tell her husband everything. He knows nothing about her and Marcus. But she asks Fred to try and remember if Sarah Banks ever mentioned a trip to France. Fred recalls something. Elisa tells her husband that the woman in the photo is the one who kidnapped their daughter. Meanwhile, Nina disposes of Milan Markovic's body by dumping it into a deep well in the garden. Later, Lucia sees Nina scrubbing blood off the floor. Only after Nina has erased every trace does she allow herself to break down emotionally. Years ago, Elisa took Nina's daughter Rose away from her, and now Nina has simply decided to take back what she believes is hers. Elisa prepares to leave for Toulon, but just then Selma appears at her door, strongly urging her to go to the police. But Elisa knows she can't, she would be arrested. She has only one chance and begs Selma not to go to the police either. Selma agrees on the condition that Elisa withdraws her complaint and tells the whole truth. And Selma is going to Toulon too. Alisa has no choice but to agree. 5 years before the abduction, Marcus, the owner of a small hotel chain, was on a private flight. His romance with Alisa progressed quickly, and soon she became pregnant. Marcus was thrilled and ready to marry Alisa, accepting Lucia as his own. But Alisa couldn't let go of Fred so easily. She still loved him. When they spoke about parenthood, Marcus asked Alisa if she wanted to visit her terminally ill father. Alisa wasn't sure. She said she'd had a very strange childhood. But Marcus believed she needed to let go of the past and make peace with it. If she didn't visit her father now, she might regret it for the rest of her life. Marcus offered to go with her for support. Soon they traveled to Aden, taking Lucia with them. Alisa introduced Marcus and Lucia to her parents, and they all joined for dinner. Deborah and Daniel welcomed their daughter and her guest warmly, but Alisa still couldn't resist making a biting comment. She said she named her daughter after a saint who was severely punished for disobedience. Marcus tried not to get involved in the family arguments, maintaining a neutral stance. At some point Daniel left the table. Sensing something was off, Alisa followed him and found him in Lucia's room. This made Alisa furious. Daniel apologized if he had done anything wrong in her childhood. But Alisa refused to listen, telling him he would never see her or Lucia again. In a fit of anger she pushed him down the stairs. In the present 7 weeks after the abduction, Alisa and Selma fly to Toulon. Selma wonders why Marcus didn't mention in court that Alisa had been with him in the car on the day of the crash. Alisa promises to tell Selma everything, after they find Nina and get Lucia back. The next morning when Nina arrives at Joao's place for the passport, no one answers the door. Nina remembers the tragic day when she was driving with her husband and daughters on a Yorkshire road. At some point Rose said she felt sick. Nina took her out of the car to the roadside, and that's when she heard the crunch of crumpling metal. The driver fled the scene. Holding Rose tightly, Nina was too shocked to cry. In the present, upon arrival in Toulon, Alisa and Selma begin searching for any leads. Back at home, Fred realizes his wife has flown to France and immediately notifies D.I. Sinclair. Caleb also knows that Selma has left the country. Police come to the publication's office and threaten with a warrant. Caleb calls Selma and tells her that the police hacked into her email and now know that she and Alisa have a photo of the woman who kidnapped Lucia, and that they are in France. Caleb explains that if she doesn't contact D.I. Sinclair immediately, she risks becoming an accomplice, because no one knows what Alisa will do when she finds Nina. But Alisa firmly refuses to call the police, reminding Selma that she owes her. Alisa is determined to check every school in Toulon, hoping it will bring them closer to answers. When Nina sees her photo online, she realizes it's over. Alisa and Selma go to the first school on their list but receive no information. Selma notices that Nina's photo is now everywhere in the news, meaning she could flee, which would complicate the search. A school employee suggests that if the woman doesn't want to be found, her children are likely being homeschooled. That kind of information can be found at City Hall. Nina's main goal now is to find Joao. Without him, she can't leave the country. She manages to find him. It turns out Joao had just stepped out for lunch. Hearing police sirens, Nina rushes to leave. Selma finds an application at one of the schools to transfer 2 girls, Josephine and Lulu Rose, to homeschooling. They live about an hour's drive from the city. Selma realizes they can't act on their own and calls the police. At that moment Alisa drives off, leaving Selma behind. Fred is beside himself with worry. D.I. Sinclair promises they'll do everything they can. No one knows yet whether Lucia is even alive. Meanwhile, Lucia finds childhood photos of Lulu Rose, unedited. The girl realizes Nina has been lying to her all this time. When Lucia sees Milan Markovic's body, she runs and bumps into Anton, the neighbor, begging him for help. Alisa is already on her way there, but Nina gets there first. Anton tells her about the body in the well and that according to Lucia, Nina isn't her mother. Nina drives Anton away, saying her daughter isn't going anywhere with him. She plans to take the girls and leave immediately, but Lucia escapes again at the first opportunity. Alisa arrives and enters the house, calling out for Lucia. She notices partially clean blood on the linoleum and the open gate in the backyard. Then she comes face to face with Nina. Alisa demands to know where her daughter is. But Nina doesn't see why she should say anything to the woman who took everything from her. At first Alisa claims it was an accident, but then she admits she was the one driving, not Marcus. Hearing this, Nina breaks down. After the crash, they just ran, refusing to take responsibility. Alisa destroyed Nina's life and went on living like nothing happened. Or did she? Alisa's childhood was a nightmare, her father did unacceptable things, and her mother covered for him all those years. The day Alisa saw her father in Lucia's room, she snapped. But she truly regrets fleeing the crash scene. Now she just wants Nina to say where Lucia's body is. Nina confesses that Lucia is alive, She ran away and is hiding. Upon hearing this, Elisa begins searching the woods and soon finds her daughter. She's safe. Elisa hugs her in tears. At that moment, police sirens are heard in the distance. Nina drives away with her daughter Josephine. It's just the two of them again. 12 weeks pass since Lucia was found. Selma has been fired and now works independently. There's still no word from Nina, she has simply vanished. Elisa has been arrested, but Fred supports her completely, no matter what. He's hired the best lawyer, but Elisa doesn't want to fight, she wants to take responsibility. Fred knows one thing, George is his son, even if they share no blood. And George still loves Elisa. She sincerely thanks him for everything. The court sentences Elisa to 6 years in prison, taking into account all mitigating circumstances. Fred, being a good father, takes care of Lucia and George while Elisa serves her sentence.